welcome back to Wicked Art. It's Wicked here, and today I did a poll about asking who wanted to see animation of a character. So I decided to do a Pokemon just because they're easier to draw. It's more shape based than having to do the muscle movements and stuff of a human being. Something I need to understand is just animation takes time. It takes a lot of time. One of my degrees is in animation. And even this one I'm about to show you, it's not going to be like super top tier. It's got enough detail in it to get the point across. But I just wanted to kind of show you how to do. But to understand how much time it takes, I had to go ahead and animate this. So for those of you who come by to see this, I really hope you appreciate this video. It took several hours to even just animate the 1.2 seconds video that's on here. And those of you who are new, let's go ahead and subscribe, leave a comment. Just be understanding that if I was to do this step by step, this would be like a 6 hour video. What I'm thinking of doing the next week is to maybe do like a simple walk cycle with a very basic drawn stick man type thing, because that's the only way to really do any step by step and not be a super long video. So what I'm going to do is, if you go ahead and look, I recreated a scene from Pokemon with Chespin doing an attack, right? So here's what it looks like. Okay, so the first thing I did was just in this foreground um, section, and Sketchbook is not the best when it comes to, if your plan is to animate some fully developed thing. That's more for like animator on Photoshop, Krita, other programs that allow you to do things like add special effects and multiple layers without restrictions. But I do like using this to show you guys, just because of it's free to use, so but anyway, so what I did was, as you can see, I just went in frame by frame, and we kind of zoom in on the head as he turns, and we come back out. So I just sketched out a rough sketch, no details, none of that, and just really, you can see the major jump from here to here. Now, if I wanted this to be super smooth, and like I said, this is why I had to cut down on some stuff, because animation takes time. There's a lot of drawing and redoing for traditional hand-drawn animation. So I hope this video gives you an appreciation for animators. The ones that you do it by hand, it is a very hard task and time-consuming. But there would be several other frames in between this for the turn, but because it's so quickly, I used it so it's not so jumpy. But if I really wanted to make it smooth, I mean, you're talking about turning from this point to the right, there'd be at least another 2 or 3 frames in there at a minimum to get that through. And as we start to zoom out, so like this is the first drawing is this here, right? So I just came down here and just duplicated it and came up to my selection tool and then just zoomed out to get this. Moving the arm back behind the head. Again, just duplicating again, just to show how to fade away. You're just simply zooming back. And then from here, we're going into a spin where his mouth is moving. So again, there'd probably be some in-betweens in between here. But you just kind of really have to, like, even from here to here, there probably should be 1, maybe 2 more frames switching to that. And then as he starts to wind up to use his abilities, same thing from here going to the front, I would stick a few extra frames in there. And then he kind of waving his arm around that way. That one's not too bad. Still could use a couple other frames in between there. Waving it down. And then he's starting to bend forward, right? So this is like a super exaggerated, like he stretched back. But then we go back and he starts to bend and he's coming forward. So I put these kind of squiggly lines to represent uh, the animation for his attack. And then immediately he goes to closing his eyes. So again, I could add another frame from here to here to bring that up. Um, but because you're only restricted to these two areas to actually animate, adding special effects and things like that in, it was just not possible, or at least not something that I had time for. But again, I'm just redrawing the same picture by just simply zooming back, and I brought the hands in more and then really tucking them down this way, and he's fully tucked under with the energy blast about ready to go. So then from there it was too easy. You can just keep this image the same and just duplicate the layer and then just animate the attack that's coming out. So again, if I wanted it to look smoother to where it wasn't so quickly, I guess I would add more frames in there. I just don't have the time for that. So you can see it went from the blast, and then the scene I was referencing it switched to something else, and like I said, we just didn't really have time. So this is just the basic block out step. Now to show you that that itself right there, that one probably just to sketch everything out and to get those 36 frames, probably took about an hour. Um, and like I said, it would have taken longer if I got all those in betweens. Now the next part, uh, in order to do this, the other limitations you have too, because it keyframes it in there, you have to individually go through and turn off those layers when you're done. But basically what you'll do is you'll have that layer on, and then you can refine your line work in the midground by selecting that layer, which you can see I have turned off right now. So what I wanted to do was I didn't want to have um, shadows and things like that, because again, that would have just eaten up way more time to animate. Like I said, about overall, it probably took about 4 hours to animate this. Um, and again, it was under a short time frame, all hand drawn, no cheat systems of skipping frames that the computer just figures out on its own, just straight up traditional. Um, but once I got done with that, I went to that midground layer, turned that on, and had to go frame by frame and retrace and draw over, right? So then I took that and added color to it. Okay, so you can see I tried to get best of a glow effect that you can. 'Cause like I said, I really didn't have time to sit there and just detail everything for y'all. So you're going to kind of see this in reverse right now as I'm bringing it back, but I've just colored him in with a basic color. I could have gone in with an airbrush and added a shadow to it. Um, but just for the program for what it is, if you're just wanting to make like short little funny cartoons, this is much more fitting for that. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. But then the other thing is just for practicing animation. That's what this would be good for. But other than that, I would do things like getting Krita, heck, even Photoshop, Adobe Animate. Um, there's just tons of programs out there that are more well suited for this. But again, I know not everybody can afford some of those programs, so that's why I'm using Sketchbook, is just so that everybody in the audience can get the opportunity to practice and try stuff, okay? So now, when we went through this, you can see I left some of the area white, because in the video itself, his little spines on his head, they turn and glow white. And again, I wasn't able to put a glow effect in there, so I just left it white. But you can see I went back through every layer, and because they have to be on the same layer, you can see some of the line work is thinner. You just have to be real careful filling that in, just because it can mess up. But it's essentially you're going over the exact same thing again. So imagine the same process again, but you're just using lines and coloring. Now this is without shadows, so imagine I would have to go through one more time to do shadows, light, or whatever. So this would be, something that would take up a lot of time, like you can even see right here. So I can go ahead and fix that. I completely forgot to put his little cheek parts on here. So when you have solid things like this, it can move by faster because you can just fill it in with the paint bucket. But for things like down here where it's not drawn all the way, you can't really just fill it in unless you close out the bottom. But some shadows would have helped define this and make it look a little bit less uh, like simple cartoon. Even if I was able to just draw a background in there real quick. Um, but essentially what I did was just started tracing over those attack lines. So if you wanted to see, so he's completely animated with color, so it looks a lot better than with just the sketchy part in there. It would pass for, like, if you wanted to do, like I said, just some kind of quick YouTube shorts, funny videos. You can see how, like, look how fast he's moving through certain parts. Like the beginning's okay pace, but then it's too fast here at the end because, again, it was just taking too much time to do that. I could easily slow that down, add it in multiple frames to help extend it out. But the general idea is there is just going frame by frame, right? So if we stop and take a look, and I won't pull back up the sketching part, I just want to kind of show, you'd just do that first one, and then you would just create a new frame or duplicate depending on what you're doing. As long as you have that little square turned on, you can see your former line. So I can just come in here and just finish what I'm doing. So when we get to parts like where he's turned and we start coming out and it starts looking different. So like, see how the arm comes up? I know from here I need to add the arm in, and then when the head starts to turn, I can see that transition from here to here to know where to turn, draw, and face everything. And just frame by frame, by having that on, you can even go back 10 frames. I mean, it's a bit messy, but even if you wanted to go 2 frames, it'd be better for like when you're doing the in-betweens. So the process that you weren't able to see would be this part here. So like, I would start here and then I'd go to like frame 7, and then you would fill in your in-betweens in between there, right? So you're kind of storyboarding it out first, getting to a certain point, and you just kind of storyboard it out, and then you go back and fill in those areas. Okay, and like I said, the coloring portion, that takes some time too. It's better if you could just keep things all on screen instead of doing like this dynamic thing that I've done, because once I got down to the area where like we're seeing the whole body in there, you know I can just easily just click, go back a frame, pick those colors with the Alt key, and just fill those in. Okay, so that part, I would say probably from about frame 30. So about frame 30 back was probably the least amount of time because I could just color pick and fill in. And again, that'd be something completely different with the shadows. You'd come and get an airbrush, come in here and shade that in too. It would just, it's really time consuming. I'm not saying that to dishearten you. I just want you to understand that if animation is something you're passionate about, it takes time and patience. Like I said, I would have drawn this with even more detail to it, especially getting those special effects coming off the head. Probably if I had access to something like After Effects, or I can't remember. I think it's DaVinci or something like that. It's another video editing program. I could have added those special effects in, afterwards and something like that. But if you wanted to stay 100%, hand drawn, because like the movement is just so fast. So if I was to export this out, to be another video, I can just come up here to File, and you can just say Export Flipbook, okay? And I can just say from frame 1 to 36. We can do an MP4, and we could change the frame rates, right, to kind of help with the speed. So if I just take it and did, yeah, we'll say the 30 frames. Okay, I'm just gonna save it to my folder. Then I can come over here and open that up, bring that up on the screen. We can see it's got that same speed to it, but what I could do, let's see if we got a playback speed option. You could take it down to half speed, and it looks a little bit better. See what I mean? It's a little bit more of a drawn, and what you can see, it's kind of funny. You see this stuff over here on the side, or here where it's not connected. That's because all that stuff was blocking my screen and got tired of moving it around. But yeah, so it's just completely up to you. You could use different playback speeds to try it, like even something ridiculous like double speed or just seeing which one is best for you to use. So me, the playback speed of about half speed is probably about right. And then if you were wanting to kind of show someone on a constant loop, you just switch it to loop, and it'll go through and just play over and over again. So again, animation takes time. It's very fun when you get to see the end result. Like even something like this, it doesn't have like all the detail in the world. It's still fun to see it come to life and how it looks. Like I said, if you want to see more stuff like this, I have no problems doing it, but it is very, very time consuming. So if it's something you're really interested in, give me a like, leave me a comment. Go ahead and subscribe, and I'll put the more detail and the effort into it and make some step by steps. Maybe do some live streams that we can animate together for, but you gotta let me know, because even like I said, even something like this, 4 hours just to get this, like I said, 1 second animation, just a little over a second. Okay, so again, not discouraging you. Please, by all means, pursue animation. It is fun, but it's just time consuming. So especially if you're trying to start on your own, do a little funny YouTube thing, and you're not trying to go the Flash Player route, and you want to do hand drawn frame by frame, just be prepared for some long time. I mean, probably to do one, let's see, that's 4 hours. 30, I mean, yeah, just to do one episode of something that's at this caliber, like no shading, stuff like that, it'd probably take about a week and a half to 2 weeks for me on a good day. Sometimes that stuff can take a whole month. So just be prepared for the long haul. But other than that, let me know what you thought. I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you stuck with the whole video. Like I said, like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Remember to keep sketching, and I will see you in the next one. All right? Bye.